Hello and welcome to this episode of Conversation Insider. So today I just wanted to tell you something which happened to me many years ago. I was working for a very large tech organization at the time, and I was a regional compensation and benefits person. So there were sub-regional component dedicated people, and sometimes in some of the larger people, the countries, there would be one component manager as well. And for the smaller countries, they would have what's called a SPOC, single point of contact, who was an HR generalist who was the point of contact for all things compensation and benefits. This organization was a rich organization. The budgeting process was very well prepared, and we did have a budget that if we were working in EMEA, for the region that the sub-region that we were in charge of as second level component people, which is what I was at the time. So I was a second level expert. We were able to travel to the different main countries at least once a year, and often more if we had budgeted for that and explained why we needed to go to those locations on a more regular basis. So then something happened, and on that year, I honestly don't remember what, but on that year, we were told that there had been an overspend, and after about 6 months, we were told nobody can travel anymore, and you cannot go anywhere. You're not allowed. You have to do the job entirely remotely with your region. So at that point in time, we were in the phase where we had received the survey results. And what we were looking for was to analyze the salary survey results. So we were participating in a minimum of 2 salary surveys per country, plus potentially a third one if there was a local survey that was relevant to us. But those 2 other were like surveys from international providers. Each of those had a peer cut answer. So we had 4 to 6 sets of data that we were receiving connected to each position, and we had to go through those results and make sure that the data was relevant, which one we would consider to be most relevant for the job, and so on. So this was an exercise that had to be done with the local HR manager, because obviously it had a huge impact on the target pay level for each position, and also on the salary structure as a whole when we would update it, because every year we would recreate it from scratch based purely on the most recent market data. So at that point in time, Big boss of component tells us no more traveling, guys, you cannot travel. And I absolutely needed to travel to my countries because I was adamant that I could not deliver the value for my internal clients. So when I called the HR managers to tell them, guys, I'm not supposed to travel anymore, they were like, really, oh, how are we going to do, and so on. And I told them, I'm not allowed to travel because my travel is paid for on the component budget. But if you can manage your country manager, because the travel ban was not for the whole company, it was within HR only. So I told them, if you manage to convince your country manager that they should pay for my flight and my hotel, I will do the work with you, and we're able to deliver. And the way to convince them is to tell the country manager that, if that is true, obviously, that if it's not me coming, you're going to have to fly a representative from one of the salary survey providers to visit you and help you to do the analysis, because you don't have the time and the knowledge to do that yourself. And obviously it will be the same cost of the flight and the hotel, but obviously you would have to pay also for consultancy coming out of their budget, because we don't have budget in HR anymore. So I got approved and I continued to travel. So there I am traveling and submitting my expenses through the local HR to the GMs. And I remember the global head of Comp and Ben heard that I was still traveling and actually called me to deliver a very unhappy talk to me, saying, "Oh, how dare you travel? I told you we don't have money, you cannot travel anymore, we don't have budget," and so on. And I said, "But I haven't been spending HR money." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "No, the business is paying for my trips." So I managed with the local HR to convince the general managers of the countries to pay for my flights. And as you can see, I've not submitted a single expense. It's all paid for by the business directly. And he was stunned. I remember he was like, "What? How did you do that?" And I said, "Well, I was able to demonstrate that it was better for me to do it than for them to pay an external consultant, which would be more expensive. So they were willing to pay for my travel out of their own budget." And he was very, very surprised. And then he said, "Okay, well, then I have nothing to say. You're not costing to us, so you can continue to do that." But he was very surprised that the business would have seen enough value for a second level compensation person to be paid for by the business instead of by HR. Because obviously I was more removed away from those general managers than their local comp and ben or their local HR, depending on the country. And so it was surprising for him that as an center of expertise had been able to demonstrate how that value was there. So this is just to say that obviously, hopefully you're not in a situation similar to that, although at the moment, not many people can travel, but more seriously, it's about being creative. You know, when you're facing difficulties, when the budgets are tight, if you are able to prove that what you're going to do is going to help the business, they will find a return on investing in whatever you want to do, and they will more likely be inclined to approve the spend than if you don't demonstrate the value. So really try to be creative, try to think of an alternative way when you're blocked. How can you finance the projects that you want to implement? How can you make sure that you have been communicating enough for them to see the value, and hopefully, you know, you get into that situation where it works out and everybody's happy in the end, and you're still able to deliver that value for the client. Obviously, if you're not delivering the value, that might work once, but it's not going to work again the following year. So you have to also be able to live up to the expectation that you're creating. So that was it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the story, and I will see you next week. Thank you.